We get all these people that come into our office and they have statements all over the place and they go, I don't even know what any of this is. I had money in this 401k, left it, money in that 401k, left it. I know there's people on this call that are in that exact same situation, money all over the place, and they don't know what any of it's doing.
So he can take that money, because I've done this. I had a 401k, brought it to you. Mm-hmm. We transferred over to an IRA.
Yep.
And by the way, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Don and asking him questions every once in a while.
Or you could just call the number on your statement and say, what am I in? What's the rate of return been? And I won't need this money for 20 years. Is that the best option for me? I'm interested in maximizing the value of this 20 years from now.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Wisdom of Wrench podcast. My name is Kevin Comerford, and we are talking about financial literacy for home service pros today. This is part 2 of a series with Don Garman as our special guest. If you want to get all of Don Garman's detail, everything that has to do with our relationship and where it all started, and go back to episode 1. Really, he shared some great foundational things that you can do to improve and increase your financial literacy, and how to get started today. This episode, we're talking about some strategies, and I'm talking about smart strategies for growth and also your financial freedom. So I've got Don here in studio again. So Don, how are you? Great to see you.
Doing great, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here.
Having a good time.
Yeah, this has been, we really enjoyed the first episode. I think we're gonna have some pretty powerful suggestions for people and how they can begin today on their way to financial freedom.
I hope so.
Yeah. So I would love you to start, Don, by just sharing a concept that you touched on in episode 1, but I'd like to expand a little bit further, and it's really good debt versus bad debt.
Yeah.
Could you share that concept?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I think of debt, it's the same way I think of the stock market, as a category. It's a tool. And like every tool that we've ever come across in any, part of our lives, it can be used for good and it can be used to harm. And so the world has set up a system of debt that is primarily used to harm a group of people who use it incorrectly. And let me explain what I mean. So let me just use 2 different categories: a home mortgage and a credit card.
Okay.
So when you think about the debt you would put on a home, your home should be selected primarily as a lifestyle choice, not as an investment, right? You're not buying a home, we can talk about rentals and those type of things, but you're not buying your primary home because you think it's going to go up in value, or you think you buy there because it's where you want to live.
Right.
So if you're putting a piece of fixed rate debt, a fixed rate mortgage against your home, that's a very sensible thing to do, because you have debt that can be refinanced to a lower rate, but can't be refinanced, not a variable rate that can go up higher. So if you put a piece of fixed rate debt against an asset, your home, that will appreciate over time, or you expect or hope it will, very sensible. This debt will come down over time as you make your payments. This asset will go up over time. Total financial sense. Where people get off the rails a bit is when they start putting debt on things that go down in value, such that the debt exceeds the value of the asset. That's bad. And then variable interest rate debt, like a credit card, where they set up a heads they win, tails you lose equation for you. If interest rates rise, as they have in the last few years, you saw how fast credit card rates went from 11 to 21. Well, if you're paying somebody else 21% a year to borrow their money, you've set yourself into a very, it'd be like a hamster wheel with crushed glass as the track. The faster you run, the more you're going to cut yourself. And it's just an impossible thing to get through. So all the people that are in that situation, before you get into how much should I invest or what should I invest in, you really have to understand your credit situation and make sure you're not using the wrong type of debt for the wrong type of asset and setting yourself up for terminal failure. It's a crash course with doom, and it's the easiest thing to identify. It's a hard thing to solve. But that's the first plan we would suggest to people is really understand that debt side.
Okay.
And if you're putting debt on something, you know the interest rate can't go up and the asset will go up, then you're in good shape.
Don, real quick.
Yeah.
Is there a number as far as like APR percentage rate where you're saying, hey, above this threshold, you really got to get rid of that debt? Below this threshold, you know what? You can kind of let that one chill out for a little bit.
Yeah. So all of these concepts are related to each other. So if you've heard the sort of rule of thumb, which is the stock market has appreciated 10% per year over long periods of time. And some people would say it's 11 and some people would say it's 9. And depending on how you're measuring it and what index you're measuring, that's not the point. But if you're paying somebody 20 and you can only long-term earn 10, the longer you wait, the bigger loser you'll be. It's just like the idea of gambling at a casino. The math is irrefutably stacked against you. The longer you play, the greater the chance you will lose. The stock market is the opposite of that. The longer you play, the greater the chance you'll win, which is why I'm always perplexed when people say investing in stocks is like gambling. I'm like, it's the opposite of gambling. The longer you play, the more chance you'll win. The casino is the complete reverse of that. So I would say, if you've got a 5% teaser rate on credit cards or you want to do credit card hopping to get their best rate, do that with a clear idea of when you will be out of that spiral. And that gets back to the concepts we talked about a bit in the last episode, which is this is going to seem like an impossible problem to solve in 1 year, because it is. But you can't think of yourself as a static player in the world. You aren't who you are today. You are who you make yourself 5 years from now, working back to today. So if you're in a debt situation that is uncomfortable, don't try to win the CrossFit games tomorrow. You're not going to. Mm-hmm. That takes years to build into. So you have to start with that brick by brick mentality going, okay, we're going to slice this thing up into thirds. We're going to kill a third of the principal of this debt over each of the 3 years. And it's going to start today. And I'm going to send $20 into the credit card company and next month 40 and next month 60. And we're going to chew this thing up to get it down. And you have to work it down to the math and the steps you have to take today and tomorrow and the next day to move you closer to that goal. Because if you do it, we've all heard habits are more or less formed after 3 weeks of continued activity. Mm-hmm. People will never get to the third week, but this is an important thing to get to the third week on.
So if you're talking about in what you just shared, if I gave you an example of $30,000 of credit card debt, say I have that.
Yeah.
And I break it up into thirds.
Yep.
I'm going to tackle 10 of it this year, 10 of it next year, and 10 of it in the third year.
Yep. You'll never have debt in the third year because you'll get so good at tackling it and so addicted to tackling it in year one, it'll be done by the end of year two.
Does everybody hear that? Did I just interrupt that, Don? Say that one more time.
No, if you put that plan out for yourself and you start chewing down that debt in year one, you'll be so relieved and proud of yourself internally that debt will be gone by the end of year two. You won't be able to stand it. It'll never get to year three. Because you'll have built the muscle, you'll have learned the technique, you'll have gotten the sense of pride and satisfaction, and you will just say, it's worth it. It's worth it. I like how I feel. I like how I look. I don't mind going to the gym anymore. I used to not like it. Now I don't even remember not liking it. All those things. I don't like vegetables. By a month later, I've said this to my wife 100 times since we've been married. Do you like the way that looks? Well, not today, but by next week I will. I'll never remember it any other way. So you have to give yourself time to acclimatize, to adapt, but you have to do it.
Yes.
And you'll get addicted
we
to
said
it.
something again in episode 1 where we talked about the trust in knowing that you're going to be a higher income earner 3 years from today.
And making yourself that. Talking to your manager and your boss about, how do I make more? I have a goal of making $30,000 more next year than I do this year. Is there a way to do that? How do I do it?
Yeah.
What skills do I need to build into myself to do that here? And they'll tell you.
So being that home service pro that is proactive in wanting to figure out what is it that I need to do to be able to increase my income in the current role that I am or a future role that I could take on.
How many more closed sales? How many more is that amount of money? What does that increment mean to me? Is that one more closed sale a week or a month? And then in your mind, when you hit your number that you've been doing, and then you hit one more, you know that one goes to the credit card company. Because the other mistake people make is they'll make more money and it goes right to the spending line, right? It goes right to a new thing, and it goes right to a new toy, and it goes right to a new, or a vacation, which is all good. And I want everybody to do that stuff. But if you go to the doctor and, you have a big boil on your shoulder, don't complain about the hangnail. We got to address the bigger thing before we get to the hangnail, And so those are the things where you just have to understand and prioritize and sacrifice.
Yeah.
A lot of this is about sacrifice and, investing in yourself in a future state, giving yourself freedom when you're 60 that your pals or your colleagues or your neighbors won't have. And they'll look at you and they'll go, how did you do that? And they'll go, it wasn't done yesterday. It was done when I was in my 30s or 20s or 40s.
So you mentioned becoming that higher earner over the next 3 years without becoming that higher spender. Again, this is for the person that's paying off the debt.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit? You're managing your lifestyle or preventing your lifestyle from
creeping.
Go ahead. Yeah, you share it.
Yeah. So it's back to the basic techniques we talked about in the first episode, which is this is not a good area to be oblivious to in your life. So just because you don't know what it is doesn't mean it isn't. So you have to be aware of what you earn and set your real expenses, not what you think you spend, but your real expenses to a number below that. If you haven't done that in the past, which put you in a situation where you've got debt, it is what it is. Forgive yourself. Now we're working on the future and building a plan to get out of it. So all of that debt represents things you've already bought in the past. You already own that stuff. It was more expensive than you thought it was because you've been paying 21% interest or whatever the number is. So you've got to tackle that problem. So you tackle that problem by going, okay, I can't tackle it with the amount of money I make today. There's no way. There's not enough extra. If I give my whole paycheck to it, it wouldn't pay it off. Well, then okay, here's the amount of money. I need to pay it off in thirds over the next 3 years or 4, or whatever the number is. That's all money I need to earn, more than I earn now. And I have to do that without letting my lifestyle just drift up to that amount of money too. Because after 3 years, if you're in the exact same situation, you're making more money, you just have higher expenses and you're sitting with the same bad choice. I have no way to get out. All you can do then is set another 3-year plan and try harder. Sacrifice something.
So I've got my debt paid off.
Yeah.
I use these credit cards. Do you suggest I pay off credit cards at the end of each month?
To the extent everybody can, absolutely you should. Do not pay anybody 20% to take their money for a month.
Okay.
Ever.
And that's a Kathy Comerfordism. Thank you, Don.
A lot of pearls.
Kathy, my mother would be so proud.
Yes.
Because when I got my first credit card, her advice to me is less is more. Less credit cards, the better. Have one and pay it off every single month. Pay as you go, she used to tell me.
Yep.
If you can't afford it, don't buy it. If you can't afford to pay for it right now, don't buy it. And she would also say that to me about whether I was ready to buy a new car. Any advice you have for people on?
I thought this was very interesting. I didn't make it up, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but I thought it was very interesting advice, which is, now this it's not going to be popular advice, but if you've deemed at early in your life that you can afford a $250 a month car payment or something in that realm. So, to save some money out of the gate, if you put $250 a month in an account because you think you can afford the payment and you did that for a couple years, you'd have enough money to buy a car. If you bought the car you could afford for cash then, you would be able to continue to buy cars every 3 or 4 years from that point forward, never taking on debt, because the next car might be $350 a month. So you would go in with a certain amount of money, buy that car, you'd put the $350 a month away every month, like on a car payment. Even though you've already got a car, you just keep making that car payment because you were making $250, now you're making, $350 a month. Then 2 or 3 years later, you give them this car and that amount of money, you get a nicer car. And you do that for another couple of years at $450. And it was a technique that was sort of simple for if you have deemed that you can make a car payment of $250 a month, then start saving $250 a month.
Before you buy it.
Before you buy it.
With your existing car.
Exactly. And hopefully, if you got a car, from somebody or you have some help and you've just deemed you want a new car, figure out what that payment would be, put it away for yourself for 2 years. And go buy that car you were going to buy today 2 years from now. It'll be 2 years old, but it'll be cheaper.
And pay cash for it.
And then do the thing all over again. And every 3 to 5 years, you'll end up with a new car or newish. I've never bought a new car, but that's, because that's not a thing that's important to me. Mm-hmm. I'd rather take the first guy's hit from a year ago on a car I was going to buy last year, but it's new to me.
Right.
And I've done that forever.
Yes. And you save all the expenses of just that, of having the new car, all that comes with it.
And the first guy drives off the lot, it's 10 grand lower. I mean, it doesn't go down a ton, but it goes down 10 grand when he drives it off the lot.
Yeah.
Well, they'd rather him take that one than me.
That's great.
Don, real quick advice. So I do have a car payment right now. It's about to be fully paid off by next April. So pretty excited about that. What do I do with that car payment money now? I'm not really interested in buying another car, but I'm going to have an extra, good chunk of change per month.
You just solved your own problem. That is you're making it now. So maybe if you're like, hey, an extra, I don't know what the size of the car payment, let's just say it's 400. Maybe say an extra 100 would go a long way to making things easier for groceries and whatnot and inflation, blah, blah, blah. But I've been making this $400 car payment. I'm going to take 300 of that and invest it in my own future. I'm going to give that money to me or give it to my family. Now that's your baseline. So then 3 years from then, you'll be like, wait a second, that's 20 grand now. Huh. That's the first sniff of freedom because then if your 20 grand's up 10%, that's an extra 2 grand. We didn't even have to save that. That just grew for you. And now you have money working for you rather than you working for it.
It's great. You just shared a concept that I'd love you to explain to our viewers, compounding interest.
Yeah.
Can you go into detail and give us a simple explanation of compounding interest?
Yeah, totally. So this relates again back to the slide, and we might put it up again in the second episode. But the rule of 72 really speaks to the power of compound interest. And so, if you just think of it in the simplest terms, money through time grows in the same way that humans start out as an egg and grow into a full-blown mature adult. So the faster growth rates are through younger companies. The slower growth rates are through more mature companies, but they're less risk of peril, right? We all, as we go through time. So the point being, you want to have your money invested in things that can grow at a faster rate than other things, right? Because to shrink the length of time to double from 10 years to 7 years relates to doubling one more time in 20 years. That's the that's the miracle of compound interest. I think it was Einstein that said, it's the most miraculous thing in the world. It's why we have to invest in companies, i.e. stocks, is because they grow faster than other things grow. Real estate, bonds, all the other alternatives.
And inflation.
And that's what we're trying to cover is inflation and have our money grow in real terms for us so that what money we have today will buy us more in the future. And in some cases, not even us, our family and our heirs. And that's really what's at stake is doing this all right. It gives you some freedom, sure, but it will set your family up behind you in a better situation than many of us were given starting out. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. So compound interest is important. Get the highest rate of return you can safely get on your money. And don't confuse one thing, which is most people think, if I put money into a stock today and it goes down tomorrow, I've lost money. That's only true if you have to sell tomorrow and get the money out, which means you probably shouldn't have done it to begin with. Mm-hmm. So you're investing money in that investment bucket when your expenses are paid for and there's extra. And some of the extra you're going to carve out into things that you can get your money out of and it won't be lower. So you're not going to expect a super high rate of a return on that because it's liquid for you. Mm-hmm. And the risk of it going down and how liquid it is are related. Yes. So the more it could go down in the near term, the higher rate of return you will demand as an investor to put your money in it, which is that's exactly why the system works the way it does. Mm-hmm. And the longer you wait, and if you buy just the S&P 500, if you've invested in the S&P 500, I think it's 5 or maybe 7 years, you've never lost money. Ever, under any time period, and for people that are younger, to people like us, this is going to sound terrible. You should be rooting for the stock market to go down. You should be rooting for a big depression because all your savings years are ahead. If you can keep buying this asset for cheaper at the cost to Kevin and Don, you should root for that. Mm-hmm. Don't tell us you're rooting for that, but you should root for that because you are still consuming, you are still earning income, and your earning years are ahead of you. So the cheaper you can buy an asset that will recover and appreciate in the future, the happier you should be.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Don't lament what happened yesterday. Think about the future. And that's the other thing. I do worry because people have been very short-term oriented, but real successful people in any sector of the world are long-term thinkers. They're planners and they're plotters, and they are not, they don't get overly emotional about. It's one of the big mistakes about the world now is, the politics and, the world's going to hell in a handbasket and, and those things may or may not be true. We've been told that a lot of times in our life. And my gripe is, news is designed to keep you tuned in, and good news isn't news.
Right.
Bad news is news.
Yeah.
And so bad news keeps us tuned in through the break and what's going on. And, what's the biggest, oh my gosh, I got to really freak out. You don't have to freak out.
Right.
You can work your plan and you can just keep plodding along and working your plan and it will work.
Great advice. Great advice. So let's switch over and talk a little bit about some strategies, some additional strategies like a 401k.
Yeah.
Or even a Roth 401k.
Yeah.
Could you explain the difference between the 401k and a Roth 401k?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the simple rule of thumb is if you are new in your career and you are quite sure you're going to be earning more money in your future than you are earning presently, and anybody who's starting out here should believe that, certainly what I've witnessed over the years, a Roth 401k is probably a better choice for you. You're better off foregoing current tax savings today because your tax bracket's going to go up tomorrow. And so when you're putting money in a Roth 401k, you're not getting a current tax benefit on it, but all the money you take out down the road comes out tax-free.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this.
Yes.
So if I understand what you just said correctly, for my 401k, I put it in tax-free.
Pre-tax.
Pre-tax. For a Roth.
So in other
401k.
words, if you make $30,000 and you put $3,000, 10% of that in your 401k, to the government, it only looks like you made $27,000. The $3,000 didn't vanish. It goes over here, and they just don't tax you on it. But then down the road, when that $3,000 grows to whatever it is, and you take money out of your 401k or IRA, which is what your 401k goes into when you retire, then they tax you on it. The Roth is the inverse of that, which is you pay the tax on the $3,000 today in a low tax bracket. It goes in here and it grows to whatever. Down the road, you take it out of your Roth IRA, which is what your Roth 401k goes into when you retire. Then you take the money out, it's tax-free. So the condition I'd like your people to be in is you will probably be in as high of a tax bracket when you retire if you do all of these techniques as you were when you were working. You want to have a bucket of money that's already been taxed, that you can take money out of to adjust your own tax situation in retirement.
Okay.
Because then you can play the tax code.
So if I heard you correctly, $30,000, if I'm making $30,000 and I decide to put 10% in a 401k, $3,000, when it comes time for me to take that money out of my 401k, I'm going to get taxed on it.
Right.
Okay. But if I take that same $3,000 and I pay the tax on it, let's say I now only have $2,000.
Right.
I put $2,000 in a Roth 401k.
Right.
So pay the tax before, put it in the Roth 401k. And when I am going to pull that money out,
it's tax-free.
20, 30, 40 years from now, all that money that I pull out is all tax-free.
Yeah, which brings me to, if you want and desire and have the intent to educate your children down the road, particularly if you have young kids, using a 529 plan is the same setup. You putting in money after tax, but all the growth is tax-free and all the distributions are tax-free. So people spend twice as much on an education as they should because they didn't get any growth and they didn't get any tax benefit. So my own example is a good one. I started putting a very small amount of money in our kids' 529 because I didn't have much 24 years ago, and then ratcheted up over the years as we're describing people or encouraging people to do in their 401k. My daughter, we've talked about this, has graduated from college, and I still put money in her 529. Can't help her, but it can help her kids. So in essence, we've endowed her kids' education through our actions. And my daughter's only 24. And my son's only 20. So we've done the same for him. So these are just long-term ways to let the tax code be your friend rather than be our continuous enemy, which is we're always battling the tax code.
So we jumped right over to, I hope everybody got that, 529Bs.
Yeah, super important.
It's a topic that you introduced me to some 18, 19 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer than that. And it's really pertinent because I've got 2 kids that are in college right now and one that just graduated, and all the money that I'm paying for their schooling is coming out of this 529B that I started paying really small amounts into 18 to 20 years ago.
Yeah. And you'll be
their
in my
education is fully paid for.
Yeah. And their kids.
And I don't even have to worry about it. It's like, okay, their books are paid for, their rent is paid for, or their rent, their housing is paid for, everything, their tuition is coming out of this 529B that I've been investing in, like I said, very small amounts early on. As my muscle of savings began to grow, and my income began to grow because I became a better me, I was able to ratchet up the savings that I was putting in my 529B.
Yeah.
So therefore, there's all this money there now for them because it has been the beneficiary of compounding interest as well.
And all of you who have young kids, you think there's a number that's too small to matter. There's really not. It's the muscle. So start with $10 a week or whatever you can afford. That sounds like it's not. Whatever replaces something you're spending $10 a week on now, or tell your family, I don't need another plastic toy. We opened up a 529. Any money that you were going to put into toys for our kids, put it in the 529, because you'll be shocked at how big those things get, as we're both witnessing.
Yes.
And I remember, if I may, the thinking around this, even for you, was once our kids' education is covered, then we don't need to put money in anymore. Where I think for both of us, through all of the, the way our lives unfolded in terms of extra money, the longer you can fund those, it's not going to help your kids, but it will help their kids and their kids. And so there really is this effect of now that it's all buried in the plumbing in the yard, the 529s and all your pipes are laid, then you can just continue to achieve those benefits of compounding for 40 years. Just crazy.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, I'll make a pitch for HSA accounts. No, most people don't use them. And it's another tool of getting a tax benefit today, getting tax advantaged growth and tax-free withdrawals for healthcare, a thing that we're going to need, and so but you can't put very much money into them. So people just go, why bother? And the thing is, I was sort of in that mode 10 years ago. And then I thought, well, why not? And now I'm looking 10 years later. I'm like, good thing I did, because we're going to almost be able to pay for our entire retirement healthcare out of this account. So they start small, but boy, they build because of compound interest.
One thing that confuses the heck out of me, I mean, among many things, but is, you're saying, 401k, I mentioned before we got on, I have a 403b, 529, like a lot of these different form numbers and whatnot. One thing that is scary is it's like I'm giving this thing my money and it feels like it's locked away. Like right now I have two, again, I have a 403b and a 401k that are essentially dormant. Like I'm not putting money towards them, and I'm no longer working for those companies that are matching my, my percentage. So I have no clue what to do with them. And it's like I have roughly $60,000 in something that is just locked away somewhere that I hope it's comfortable wherever it is. I don't know. Any good, I don't know what to do with it. So that's what's really confusing is once it's into this thing, what can I do with it? And now that I'm in my current situation, like what is the next progression from there?
So wherever you worked, whoever ran that 401k, you're getting some kind of statement on it, I presume. So on that statement, there's a phone number. If I were you, so your options are twofold. You could take that 401k, you could roll it into a firm like ours and ask us, and we will tell you, how much risk are you comfortable taking? Here are the different options. That's available to you. Or you could just call the number on your statement and say, what am I in? What's the rate of return been? I'm whatever age I am, and I won't need this money for 20 years. Is that the best option for me? I'm interested in maximizing the value of this 20 years from now. So what are my best options to maximize the value of this 20 years from now? And they will say, great, with that amount of time, you can dial up the risk. You can go from 4, which is probably what you're in, to 9. 9, if you open up your computer and it says the market had a bad day and you decide that's the day you want to open up your 401k, you will probably have lost money that day. But that isn't the important day for you. Your important day is 20 years from now. So you have to have the presence of mind to go, all is well. Let it happen, and it will happen.
So he can take that money, because I've done this. From previous companies I worked for. I had a 401k, brought it to you, and I think we transferred over to an IRA. An IRA, and then the investments that your firm did for me, you shared with me based on what my goals were, my strategies were. So I was able to take this money, Andrew, that I had locked up, because I felt the same way as you did. I never looked at it, and I didn't really know what it was invested in. And I brought it over to Don and had Don invest it in things that he explained to me and I understood. And so now when I'm opening up my statement during that 30 to 60 minute exercise each week that I'm doing on my financials, I'm looking at it and I'm understanding it more. And by the way, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Don and asking him questions every once in a while. A, because I want him to know that I'm looking at it. B, but I also want him to know that because I'm wanting to strengthen that muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And the more knowledge,
work out the muscle,
the more increase, the more I can flex it. That's just a way that I flex it, is by taking action and making a phone call.
And I'm going to throw a curveball of things I think people miss about how this works. It's not uncommon for us to see people, 40, 45, 50, and they've got 6 different accounts at 6 different places. And so that takes your half an hour of weekly hygiene to an hour and a half, and loses attention span and increases vectors of attack. And I throw this all into the leakage bucket. So if all we do for anybody is tighten up the leakage, so you don't need these 6 accounts of these 6 different institutions. This should be one account, gives you one login to see how it's doing. Then it's one institution that you have to worry about getting hacked and not 6. It's 1 2-factor authentication instead of 6. And, it takes your hour and a half of miserable Sunday, I want to be doing anything but this, and makes it a 1 login. Okay, now I know how it's doing. Anything that needs to be done, no. Send whoever a text. Great week, whatever you say, whatever your process is to practice every week. And now you've taken control. You have agency. You know what you have. And then your propensity to want to do another rep increases rather than this overwhelming dread at people. And we get all these people that come into our office and they have statements all over the place and they go, I don't even know what any of this is. And that's that's 7 jobs later, 20 years later. I had money in this 401k, left it. Money in that 401k, left it. I know there's people on this call that are in that exact same situation. Money all over the place. And they don't know what any of it's doing.
So Don, let's go back real quick to if I'm investing in a 401k right now with the Wrench Group, how can I take control over what those investments are being invested into?
Yeah. So it should be very simple. So I think to everybody who has a 401k through Wrench would have had to log on to the website at some point. So everybody can scramble around and figure out what their login information was for that and go find it and log into it. There will be a phone number of people to call on that line. And my first call would be, hey, do me a favor, describe what I'm invested in. And on a scale from 1 to 10, how much risk am I taking? And if I'm going to retire in 20 years, is this a good choice for me? I don't know the current plan. I know the plan that we worked on together. We set everybody's default investment to be invested according to when they might likely retire, 62, 65, somewhere around there. And then over time, as you near retirement, the option will get more conservative. It will adjust itself to be more conservative as you near retirement. That works for lots of people. I prefer to have more awareness and an acute selection process around my own investments in my 401k. And, I'm 55, so I'm a lot closer to retirement than I've ever been. But in my early years, I was like, I'm going to be putting money into this every month. I want it tuned to the highest risk possible so that I can take advantage of every time the market goes down and I'm just buying more, and I was super comfortable with that because I was doing all these other things also. Not everybody is comfortable with that and feels that way, but it's certainly an approach. If you've got your balanced diet and your 401k is kind of the dessert, let's just sugar it up with volatility and risk and just know I'm adding money to it all the time. I never have to worry about if the market's going down because I'm buying more. Mm-hmm. It's a great strategy for a great terminal outcome.
It's great.
Yeah.
What would you say? What do you think the difference is, Don, between a passive investing versus active investing?
Yeah.
And what advice would you have for people with regards to that?
These are good, two good commonly misused and maybe potentially misunderstood terms. So passive, which is espoused by a large subset of the investment community, is the S&P 500. Why it's called the S&P 500? It's the 500 largest American companies.
Okay.
And when you buy the S&P 500, that's what you're buying. right? NVIDIA, I think, is the largest, and then Apple, and then Google, and then Microsoft. And so those are kind of what you're really getting. And through time, as companies get larger and smaller, it's all accounted for within the basket. It's passive. There's no option there. The contrast is active, which has another dimension to the decision, which is when you're a passive investor, you get what the S&P is, good or bad. Mm-hmm. And every 10 or 15 years, the financial crisis, the beginning of COVID, Liberation Day this year, the market goes down a lot. Now, in those cases, 08 was a longer period. The tech wreck before that was 3 years of down. People generally, when you're down a lot, it affects your behavior. It affects your mood. If you're paying attention to it, and I can only imagine if you were down 50%, it would catch your attention. Questions. Maybe we're not as nice to our wives. Maybe maybe you're not as nice to our kids. Mm-hmm. So as our situation has evolved, active allows you to add defense and special teams to offense. Mm. So passive is good for long time horizon, continuous additions like a 401k. Don't worry about volatility. It's your friend. Active is more, okay, I don't necessarily want to be down 50% if the market's down 50%. I might be comfortable being down 12 or 15, but 50 is too much. Mm-hmm. I know myself well enough to know personally, if I were down 50, I'd be losing my marbles. So I can't be in a position to be in that state. So I have to be aware of how to place defense and special teams along with offense, because there's times for all of it. And not to strain the football metaphor, but you play a football game differently if you're ahead 41-7 in the fourth quarter. You don't need a pass anymore. Right. You have the option of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Mm-hmm. You have the option of nursing clock. You have the option of scrambling around and running out of bounds. When you're down 41-7 in the fourth quarter, you don't have any options. Mm-hmm. You're running. You're trying to throw touchdowns. This is unfortunately our Cal Bears got into this situation last weekend. Mm-hmm. If you're down 21 points in the third quarter, you don't have a running game. Mm-hmm. You're throwing, and then you throw 2 pick sixes, and then the game's over. And we can't ever be in that position when we're at our age. Mm-hmm. Let's not be in a position to need a dramatic comeback. Whereas when you're in your 20s, you bet.
Yeah, that's great.
Don't worry about it.
So we talked last episode about this financial advisor, and one of the messages that you sent was, hey, making sure that you get your house a little bit in order.
Yeah.
And you might not need a financial advisor.
Yeah.
But it's now time for me to go find this person.
Yeah.
Right? Which there was a time for me, and it was pretty long into our relationship.
You were pretty successful by that point. Yeah.
Yeah. What questions? Because you mentioned this. Find somebody that plays defense and special teams as well as offense. So what questions should I have for that advisor?
Yeah. The easiest answer is you have to understand where your interests are aligned and where they diverge. In other words, I'll give you an example of our business and the contrast between now and in the past. So the RIA business, which is what our business is a fiduciary model. So the term fiduciary is a legal term, and what it means is we're required by law to put your interests in front of our interests. So when there is a question, they will hold us to a standard that's very high. Would what was done for you have been done by any prudent expert in our industry? Super high standard. And if they deem that no, that standard was not met, then you win. So now the other way our industry works is more of a brokerage model. Much lower standard of care, and there are ways where I can win whether or not you lose. And that is through the sort of mechanism of you're buying a product, I'm going to earn a commission. I hope for your sake it goes well for you. but you're not getting the commission back. I'm going to earn that whether it goes well for you or not. And those are constructed, and they're sort of very complex. And so it becomes a situation where you want to ask the question, how are you compensated? Are there things you can sell me where you're going to make a commission, and if they work or not, you're going to get paid?
This is so important.
Yeah.
I really hope everybody's listening to this, because I went through this just with my mother's brokerage. She was on a brokerage account versus a fiduciary account. She was paying commissions every time a trade was happening versus a fiduciary where the fiduciary account takes a percentage of your portfolio every year.
And every time your account goes down, I make less money. So it can't work any other way. The only way for me to make more is for you to make more. And the only way for me to, when you lose money, I lose money.
Yes.
Every time.
Am I getting that right? A brokerage account versus a fiduciary account?
Exactly. A brokerage option.
Okay.
And so not to imply that every brokerage firm or every brokerage product is bad. It's just a different way that I can make money whether or not you do.
Yeah. And when you worked for a big firm, where they call them the wirehouses, or whatever.
Wirehouses, yeah.
Were you able to be on a fiduciary account with your clients, or was it a brokerage?
You could do both. So it creates it creates the dual. Some might argue additional conflict, and I actually put that in the book, which I know you read, which is. It's a very easy game for me to play, which is if you tell me where you do business, I'll tell you what you own. And I've done it so many times in my career, it's almost not even a fun party trick anymore. And people will go, how could you know that? And I will say, because I know how the person who's advising you gets paid. So I know what they're incented to do. Therefore, I know what you will own. And that's a demoralizing thought when you feel like you've been looked after by somebody, and all of a sudden you look at a third of the things that you own, which may not be the best third of the things you own. They might be good or good-ish, but they're not the things. They're not like as good as the other things. And you realize, well, that's why. Those are bugs and features.
So good, Don. So good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a great wrap on the second part of the series. Again, I wanted just some of the simple strategies just to recap what we talked about.
Yeah.
Don spent a lot of time at the beginning talking about paying off debt. If that's the key thing, get that taken care of first. If it's a 3-year plan, map it out. Make sure your lifestyle does not increase or creep as your income increases, because trusting in yourself that you're going to become a better you over the next 3 years will mean that you're going to make more income. Just make sure your lifestyle stays down so you can get that credit card paid off. Then when you have those credit cards paid off, make sure you pay as you go. Pay as you go.
Indeed.
Pay them off. Less is more. Fewer credit cards. We talked about that when it comes to a car payment as well.
Yeah, and you get that car paid off, and you take 2/3 of it or 3/4 of it, and you start paying yourself.
Yes,
and then you start putting the bricks on top of each other.
We talked about 401k and versus a Roth 401k, and how right now, if you're young, it might be in your best interest to look at a Roth 401k.
Yeah, again, or split them,
or split them.
Love splitting them.
Again, that's really important. We also talked about the 529B. Starting today. Great tool for children. You and I are both the beneficiaries of that with our kids. We both have kids who are in college, but we started these 20 years ago, putting minimal. I think I started, no joke, Don, $50.
Yeah, I started 25. I did. Started 25 a month.
I was, yeah. Just get that muscle going. We talked about building that saving muscle and just starting somewhere. And then we came back and really spent a lot of time, which I really appreciate this last topic about what to ask your financial advisor, understanding how they're paid, understanding what their motivations are. Because that was a big thing for you and I.
Yeah.
I was super cautious.
Took a while. Yeah.
I was, as somebody that's had money stolen from me.
Yeah.
I got trust issues.
Yeah. No, for all the right reasons. I understand.
Yeah. So, and you helped me through that, and you were gentle with me, and I appreciate it.
Been a great team.
And patient with me. But it was all with the intent to make my future bigger than my past.
And it's worked well. You've done the hard part, but we're happy to have been of assistance, and it's been an inspiration to be your friend all these years, and hope we're just not even at the halfway point of our journey together.
That's right, Don. I truly believe there's still 7 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah. You got a lot of time.
We got a lot of time left.
Well, and I will say for your viewers, you have some big goals in the future. And so the big goals, I feel in many ways like I wanted to trace back the first lunch to maybe 2008. So, and we'd known each other for a few years by the time the lunch even happened, but you laid out plans then that I watched you meticulously execute against. All of the numbers, we've talked about this before, went on to exceed your expectations, which is very common for you. And now you've laid out a whole new set of big goals for yourself and your family and your company. And so I can't wait to see what you're up to next, including this podcast. It's been fun to watch.
Always make your future bigger than your past.
Love that. Thank you, pal.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here's to a bigger future. Thank you, Don Garman.
Thank you, Kevin.